You twins?
It's so true. It can conjure spirits from the...
No house party. I'll stank.
You want some?
You
Off more than you can chew.
one day he's gonna...
This world already left you for dead. I am your way out.
I don't believe in magic. Ghosts.
Sinners isn't just another dark thriller, it's a web of secrets, betrayal, and shocking truths you might have missed on your first watch. In today's video, we're diving deep into the hidden details, surprising facts, and untold layers of this film. Welcome back to Hidden Real Fact, where every reel hides a story, and we reveal it. Sinners is a 2025 American horror film produced, written, and directed by Coogler. Set in 1932 in the Mississippi Delta, the movie stars Michael B. Jordan in dual roles as criminal twin brothers who return to their hometown, only to be confronted by a supernatural evil. The film also features Haley Steinfeld, Miles Catton in his film debut, Jack O'Connell, Bunmi Mosaku, Jamie Lawson, Omar Benson Miller, and Delroy Lindo. Coogler developed the film through his company Proximity Media, with Jordan cast as the lead. The project was announced in January 2024, and after a competitive bidding war, Warner Bros. Pictures acquired distribution rights the following month. More cast members joined in April, and principal photography ran from April to July 2024. Longtime Coogler collaborator Ludwig G. Tilde Pilgro-Ranson composed the score and also served as an executive producer. Sinners premiered on April 3, 2025, at AMC Lincoln Square in New York City and was released in U.S. theaters on April 18, 2025, by Warner Bros. Pictures. The film was praised by critics and earned $366 million worldwide. Plot: in 1932, Clarksdale, Mississippi, identical twins and World War I veterans Elijah Smoke and Elias Stackmore return home after working for the Chicago outfit for 7 years. With stolen money, they purchase a sawmill from landowner Hogwood to build a juke joint for the local black community. Their cousin Sammy, an aspiring guitarist, joins them despite his past their father Jedediah's warnings about the sinful blues. The twins recruit pianist Delta Slim, shopkeepers Grace and Bo Chow, field worker Cornbread as a bouncer, and Smoke's wife Annie as a cook. Annie believes her hoodoo practices kept the twins alive, though Smoke doubts her after the loss of their daughter. Stack also reconnects with his ex-girlfriend Mary, who resents him for leaving her. Meanwhile, Irish vampire Remek hides from Choctaw vampire hunters with a local clan couple, whom he turns into vampires. On opening night, Sammy, Delta Slim, and singer Perlan perform. Sammy's music is so powerful it stirs spirits from past and future, but it also draws the attention of Remek and his vampires, who offer wealth in exchange for entry. Smoke refuses. The twins realize their business won't survive because patrons only pay with company scrip. Mary secretly meets Remek, is turned into a vampire, and fatally bites Stack. Smoke shoots Mary, but she survives and escapes. Cornbread is also turned. Smoke shuts down the joint early. As patrons leave, they are ambushed by vampires. Stack revives as one, but Annie drives him off with garlic juice. Annie explains how to fight vampires and warns that killing Remek won't restore victims to human form. Remek later tries to bargain, offering immortality if they give up Sammy. He also warns Hogwood and the clan plan to attack at dawn. The survivors refuse his offer, angering Grace, who lets the vampires in. A bloody battle follows, killing Grace, Bo, Annie, and Delta Slim. Mary escapes again, and Perlan is turned. Smoke kills Stack in combat and helps Sammy burn the vampires in the sunrise. Smoke then kills Hogwood and his men but is fatally shot himself. After dying, he reunites with Annie and their daughter. Sammy ignores his father's religious pleas and heads to Chicago. In 1992, and elderly Sammy, and now a famous blues musician, is visited by the immortal Stack and Mary. Stack reveals that Smoke spared him long ago if Sammy lived a peaceful life. Sammy refuses their offer of immortality but plays music for them one last time. As they leave, Sammy admits that despite the horrors, the night of the juke joint was the greatest day of his life. Stack agrees, since it was the last time he saw his brother, the sun, and true freedom. Cast Michael B. Jordan as Elijah Smoke Moore and Elias Stack Moore. Haley Steinfeld as Mary, Stack's ex-girlfriend. Miles Cutton as Samuel Sammy Moore, their cousin and aspiring musician. Buddy Guy as elderly Sammy. Jack O'Connell as Remek, an Irish vampire. Wunmi Mosaku as Annie, Smoke's wife and a hoodoo practitioner. Jamie Lawson as Pearline, a singer and Sammy's love interest. Omar Benson Miller as Cornbread, a bouncer. Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim, a legendary musician. Peter Drummond as Bert, a Klansman. Lola Kirk as Joan, Bert's wife and fellow Klansman. Lee June Lee as Grace Chow, a shopkeeper. Yao as Bo Chow, Grace's husband. Saul Williams as Jedediah Moore, Sammy's father. David Maldonado as Hogwood, the clan leader. Helena Hu as Lisa Chow, Grace and Bo's daughter. Nathaniel Larkin as Shaden, a Choctaw vampire hunter. Andreen Ward Hammond as Ruthie, Sammy's mother. Amity Ellison as Therese, Cornbread's pregnant wife. Production. In January 2024, news broke that Ryan Coogler was developing an untitled period film through his company Proximity Media, with Michael B. Jordan attached to star. The film was rumored to take place in the Jim Crow era South and involve the undead. Several major studios bid for distribution rights, with Warner Brothers ultimately securing the deal by agreeing to Coogler's conditions: first dollar gross, final cut approval, and eventual ownership of the film. Coogler cited inspiration from Quentin Tarantino, Jordan Peele, Christopher Nolan, Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma, Spike Lee, and the Metallica song One. In April 2024, Jack O'Connell joined as the villain, followed by Delroy Lindo, Jamie Lawson, Haley Steinfeld, Omar Benson Miller, and others. Wunmi Mosaku was cast as Smoke's wife, and Miles Cutton made his debut as Sammy. Filming began in New Orleans in April 2024 under the working title Grilled Cheese and wrapped in July. Cinematographer Autumn Durrell Darkapua shot the film on 65mm film using IMAX and Ultra Panavision cameras. Kodak even created a special 65mm version of their Ektachrome film stock for flashback scenes. Production costs reached around $100 million, with $67.6 million spent in Louisiana. The production design paid homage to Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman, and the costume essay designed by Ruthie Cartera reused some designs originally created for Marvel's Blade project. Several major visual effects studios, including ILM and Rising Sun Pictures, contributed to the film. Music. Ludwig G. Tilde Pilcrow Ranson composed the score, drawing from Delta blues traditions and using a 1932 Dobro resonator guitar, the same instrument Sammy carries in the film. He and his wife Serena, a violinist, worked with blues producer Lawrence Boo Mitchell at Royal Studios and recorded with musicians like Cedric Burnside, Alvin Youngblood Hart, Brittany Howard, Raphael Sadat, Bobby Rush, Christone Kingfish Ingram, and Buddy Guy. Much of the music was recorded live on set with the cast performing alongside real blues musicians. Haley Steinfeld also contributed an original song, Dangerous. Unlike most Warner Brothers releases, the soundtrack was distributed through Sony Music, with Broadway's Single Sinners leading the album. Release. The film was released in U.S. theaters on April 18, 2025, after being delayed from March. It premiered in IMAX 70mm and was also screened in Clarksdale, Mississippi, during a special festival with panels and Q&As. AMC Theaters held special Juneteenth screenings nationwide. Sinners was released digitally on June 3, 2025, followed by 4K Ultra HD, Blu-ray, and DVD on July 8. It debuted on HBO Max on July 4, with the distinction of being the first film offered on a streaming platform with Black American Sign Language interpretation. Reception box office. The film earned $278.6 million in the US and Canada and $88.1 million internationally, for a worldwide total of $366.7 million. Despite debates over its break-even point, it was ultimately profitable, with Variety later estimating around $60 million in theatrical profit. Sinners debuted to $48 million, beating expectations and outperforming other Warner Bros. Releases. It continued strong in subsequent weekends, breaking records for original horror films and crossing $200 million domestically by its fourth weekend. Critical response. On Rotten Tomatoes, 97% of critics praised the film, and Metacritic gave it a score of 84/100. Cinema Score audiences gave it an A, the highest grade for a horror film in decades. Critics highlighted Coogler's vision, Jordan's performance, and the film's cinematography, though some preferred a grounded first half to the supernatural climax. The music received particular acclaim, with reviewers calling G.A.Tilde score phenomenal and essential to the story. Many critics compared the film to From Dusk Till Dawn, though Coogler himself likened it more to The Faculty. Michael B. Jordan's dual role as the twins, a casting masterstroke in identity and duality in the casting of Sinners. Ryan Coogler's decision to place Michael B. Jordan at the center of the narrative as twin brothers Elijah and Elias Moore represents a pinnacle of actor-audience synergy, building on their established collaboration from Fruitvale Station, 2013, Greed, 2015, and Black Panther, 2018. Jordan's portrayal of the twins isn't merely a technical feat of performance, it's a deliberate narrative device that amplifies the film's exploration of identity, heritage, and the supernatural forces that fracture the self. Elijah, the more spiritually attuned and preacher-like figure, embodies a quest for redemption amid the blues-soaked juke joints of 1930s Mississippi, while Elias, his more worldly counterpart, grapples with the temptations of secular music and the shadows of vampiric influence. This duality allows Jordan to flex his range in ways that echo the multifaceted characters he's inhabited before, but with a horror-infused twist that demands physical and emotional bifurcation. Jordan's preparation for the roles reportedly involved months of immersion in Delta blues history, consulting with historians and musicians to capture the cadence of Black Southern vernacular and the soulful inflections of early 20th century gospel. Physically, the actor underwent subtle alterations of differing hairstyles, one twin with a neatly trimmed fade evoking clerical poise, the other with a looser, sweat damp and curl suggesting nights of revelry to distinguish them without relying on heavy prosthetics. Critics and early festival buzz have praised how Jordan's micro-expressions convey the twins' internal conflict, a shared glance across a crowded speakeasy that hints at unspoken trauma from their Chicago upbringing, a subtle twitch of the jaw when Elias succumbs to the film's seductive vampire queen. This casting choice elevates Sinners beyond genre tropes, positioning Jordan as a linchpin who bridges the horror of racial haunting with personal introspection. His chemistry with supporting cast members, particularly in scenes of fraternal tension, underscores Coogler's trust in Jordan's ability to carry emotional weight, much like his Adonis Creed shouldered the legacy of Apollo. Delving deeper into Jordan's embodiment of Elijah, the character serves as the moral compass. A man who fled the North's industrial grind only to confront the South's spectral sins. Jordan drew from his own experiences with typecasting post-Black Panther, channeling that frustration into Elijah's sermons, fiery, rhythmic monologues that blend biblical fury with blues laments. In one pivotal sequence, Elijah confronts a lynch mob's echo in a hallucinatory vision, his voice cracking with the raw vulnerability Jordan honed in Creed 3's directorial debut. The actor's vocal coaching, under dialect specialist Michelle Williams, ensured authenticity, with Elijah's speech laced with archaic Southernisms that ground the supernatural in historical specificity. Conversely, Elias's arc demands a looser physicality. Jordan trained in period-appropriate dance moves, incorporating juke joint shuffles inspired by 1930s Lindy Hop variations, to portray a man whose body becomes both instrument and battleground for otherworldly possession. The twins' convergence in the third act, where their identities blur in a blood ritual, showcases Jordan's technical prowess utilizing split screen and motion capture to seamless effect, making his dual casting not just economical but thematically essential. Hailee Steinfeld as Mary, infusing modern sensibility into a doomed muse. Hailee Steinfeld's selection as Mary, the twins' ill-fated love interest and a schoolteacher harboring her own vampiric secrets, brings a fresh, contemporary edge to Sinners period piece. At 28 during filming, Steinfeld, known for The Edge of 17, 2016, and Bumblebee, 2018, lends Mary an anachronistic depth, her wide-eyed idealism clashing against the film's gothic dread. Mary's role as the narrative's emotional fulcrum required an actress capable of transitioning from tender romance to feral desperation, and Steinfeld's casting achieves this through her nuanced grasp of quiet intensity. Reports from the set indicate she bonded with Jordan over shared scenes of courtship, where Mary's piano improvisations on spirituals foreshadow her corruption, drawing from Steinfeld's real-life musical background as a vocalist. Steinfeld's preparation was rigorous. She studied archival footage of black educators in Jim Crow-era South, adopting a poised posture that contrasts Mary's eventual unraveling into nocturnal hunger, her wardrobe initially modest calico dresses giving way to tattered, blood-stained gowns mirrors this arc, with costume designer Ruth E. Carter, of Black Panther fame, collaborating closely to ensure the fabrics evoke both fragility and ferocity. In promotional materials, Steinfeld's Mary is often framed in close-ups that highlight her luminous skin against the film's desaturated palette, a visual cue to her otherworldly allure. Her interactions with the twins add layers of jealousy and redemption. A scene where Mary chooses between Elijah's salvation and Elias's passions showcases Steinfeld's ability to convey unspoken longing with a single arched eyebrow, a skill refined in her arcane voice work. This casting disrupts expectations of the final girl trope, positioning Mary as an active participant in the sin cycle, her transformation a metaphor for the seductive pull of forbidden knowledge and marginalized communities. Further examining Steinfeld's vocal contributions, Sinners features original songs co-written by her character, blending folk hymns with eerie harmonics that underscore the score by Ludwig G. Tilde Pilcrow Ranson. Steinfeld's singing voice, ethereal yet grounded, required vocal therapy to mimic 1930s recording technique with close mic'd whispers that evoke ghostly echoes. Her chemistry with Jordan extends to improvised jams, where Mary's melodies lure Elias into damnation, highlighting Steinfeld's versatility in blending vulnerability with menace. Critics have noted how her performance humanizes the vampire mythology, making Mary's bites not just horrific but erotically charged, a bold choice that aligns with Coogler's subversive take on horror. In ensemble scenes, Steinfeld anchors the emotional stakes, her Mary's quiet defiance against Stacker's tyranny providing a feminist counterpoint to the film's patriarchal ghosts. Miles Catton Stack, Jack O'Connell bringing Irish grit to Southern menace. Jack O'Connell's casting as the antagonist Stacka, a vicious Irish immigrant cop turned vampire enforcer in Jack Sinners with a transatlantic edge, his Birmingham accent softened into a menacing drawl that evokes the historical tensions of Southern law enforcement. O'Connell, 34, fresh from 71, 2014, and Unbroken, 2014, was chosen for his ability to embody quiet rage, transforming Stack from a badge-wielding bigot into a nocturnal predator whose immortality amplifies his bigotry. This role marks a departure for O'Connell, who immersed himself in Irish diaspora history, consulting genealogists to trace his character's lineage to famine-era migrants, adding depth to Stack's resentment toward the Moore twins as symbols of resilient black ambition. Physically, O'Connell bulked up for the role, his wiry frame hardened through farm labor simulations to capture Stack's rural deputized brutality. His vampire pale veins mapping under translucent skin relies on practical makeup that O'Connell tested for hours, ensuring the prosthetics allowed fluid movement and chase sequences through Catton fields. Promotional stills depict Stack looming over Elijah with the sheriff's star glinting like fangs, O'Connell's piercing blue eyes conveying a hatred that's both personal and epochal. His performance peaks in interrogations laced with slurs, where O'Connell's restraint builds to explosive violence, drawing from method acting techniques that left co-stars, including Jordan, in awe of his intensity. This casting choice underscores the film's commentary on intersectional oppression, with Stack's arc culminating in a sunlit demise that symbolizes the fragility of white supremacist eternity. O'Connell's vocal work further distinguishes Stack. Coached by a dialect expert, he layers a subtle lilt over southern inflections, making taunts like "boy" drip with imported venom. Behind-the-scenes accounts reveal O'Connell's improvisations during night shoots, where he'd linger in character to heighten tension, fostering an on-set atmosphere that bled into the raw energy of Stack's pursuits. His confrontations with Mary add a layer of twisted courtship, O'Connell's Stack viewing her as a prize to corrupt, which Steinfeld countered with scenes of verbal sparring that highlight gender and racial power dynamics. In the broader ensemble, O'Connell's Stack serves as the human monster before his supernatural upgrade, a nuance that elevates the casting from villainous caricature to tragic cautionary tale. Delroy Lindo's Delta Slim, patriarchal wisdom and W.B. Du Bois echoes Delroy Lindo's portrayal of Delta Slim, the juke joint owner and surrogate father to the twins, casts the veteran actor as the film's grizzled sage, his booming baritone dispensing blues philosophy amid clinking glasses and cigarette haze. At 72, Lindo acclaimed for Da5 Bloods, 2020, and Coogler's Black Panther was a natural fit, bringing gravitas to a character who navigates the color line with wry cynicism. Delta Slim's role as gatekeeper of the South Sanic underground required Lindo to channel W.B. Du Bois's double consciousness, his monologues weaving reconstructionary grievances with warnings of immortal sins lurking in the shadows. Lindo's preparation included harmonica lessons from blues master Charlie Musselwhite, allowing Delta Slim to punctuate stories with mournful wails that foreshadow the twins' peril. Visually, Lindo Slim is attired in suspenders and a threadbare vest, his salt and pepper beard framing expressions of paternal concern, as seen in posters where he cradles a guitar like a talisman against the encroaching night. His chemistry with Jordan crackles in mentorship scenes, Lindo's ad-libs infusing fatherly ribbing with profound sorrow, reminiscent of his Clockers, 1995, depth. This casting honors Lindo's stage roots, with soliloquies delivered in one-take fury that capture the rhythm of oral history. Expanding on Lindo's influence, Delta Slim's joint becomes a microcosm of resistance, and Lindo's interactions with ensemble players like One Mimosaku add communal texture. His slim counsels Mary on love's perils, Lindo's eyes twinkling with hard-won insight, while clashing with Stack in barroom standoffs that bristle with unspoken lynch law. Lindo's physical commitment to stamina training for long night shoots ensures Slim's vitality belies his age, making his eventual sacrifice a heartbreaking pivot. Critics laud how Lindo's casting grounds the supernatural in human resilience, his Delta Slim a beacon whose bluesy wisdom lingers like smoke. One Mimosaku as Grace, maternal fury and ancestral rage. One Mimosaku's Grace, the twins' mother and a hoodoo practitioner whose rituals summoned the vampire plague, marks a powerful return for the British-Nigerian actress, known from Lovecraft Country, 2020, in a role that fuses maternal veracity with mystical authority. Mosaku, 38, was cast for her ability to convey layered grief. Grace's arc tracing from Chicago matriarch to Southern Avenger, her Yoruba-inflected incantations a bridge between African diaspora and Delta folklore. Coogler's vision for Grace demanded an actress who could embody the veiled strength of black womanhood, and Mosaku delivers through subtle gesture as a hand trembled in prayer, eyes flashing with prophetic fire. Her preparation involved consultations with Gullah root workers, incorporating herbs and chants that authenticate Grace's candor, with Mosaku's wardrobe evolving from urban woolens to earth-toned robes stained with ritual ash. Posters capture Grace in silhouette against bonfires, her profile etched with determination, Mosaku's expressive features conveying the weight of generational curses. In scenes with Jordan, Grace's rebukes to her son's pulse with love's edge, Mosaku's Nigerian lilt softening into Mississippi warmth, a vocal shift honed over weeks. Her confrontation with the Vampire Queen is a tour de force, Mosaku's physicality unleashing in ritual dance channeling ancestral fury that rivals her his house. 2020, haunts. Mosaku's grace extends the film's matrilineal themes, her bond with Steinfeld's Mary forging a surrogate lineage disrupted by bloodlust. Ensemble dynamics shine in family suppers turn seances, where Mosaku anchors the Moore clan's unraveling with stoic boys. Her casting amplifies sinners' horror as inherited trauma, graces who do not salvation but catalyst, a bolden version that Mosaku inhabits with unflinching power. Jamie Lawson as the Vampire Queen, seductive menace and iconic villainy. Jamie Lawson's debut as the Vampire Queen, an enigmatic Creole seductress who ensnares Elias with promises of eternal melody, positions the Woman King. 2022, star as Sinner's breakout antagonist, her lithe frame and smoldering gaze redefining vampiric allure. At 29, Lawson was chosen for her regal bearing, the queen, a figure of liberated sin who lures with jazz-infused hypnosis, her lyra decadent speakeasy veiled in fog. Coogler sought an actress to embody forbidden desire, and Lawson's casting infuses the role with Pan-African mystique, drawing from her Zimbabwean heritage to craft the Queen's pigeon-laced whispers. Lawson's immersion included vocal styling with a jazz singer. Her queen sings a sultry contralto riffs attempting Elias into damnation, as glimpsed in teasers where her fangs glint amid saxophone wails. Visually, she's draped in silk kimonos hybridized with New Orleans lace, posters framing her in throne-like repose. Lawson's high cheekbones casting shadows of eternal youth, her chemistry with Jordan sizzles in seduction scenes, Lawson's touch lingering like a curse, while clashes with Mosaku's grace evoke rival priestesses. This role catapults Lawson, her queen's demise, a Pyrrhic victory that underscores the cost of unchecked hunger. Lawson's physical transformation, a pale makeup accentuating vein mops, required endurance tests. Her queen's grace and flight sequences achieved via wire work. In ensemble vampire hunts, she commands lesser thralls with imperious snaps. Lawson's poise elevating the horde from faceless to fervent. Her casting challenges horror as Eurocentric villains, the Queen, a dark divinity whose sins reflect colonial thefts. Peter MacDonald as Samuel, the reluctant Confederate revenant. Peter MacDonald Samuel, a Confederate ghost bound to Stack's spectral advisor, brings Irish subtlety to Sinner's undead bureaucracy. The Damned, 2013, actor portraying a fated officer whose regrets fueled a vampire hierarchy. At 53, MacDonald was cast for his haunted minimalism, Samuel's ectoplasmic form flickering in sepia tones, his drawl laced with post-bellum bitterness. Preparation involved historical reenactments, MacDonald Samuel quoting Lost Cause apologia with wary irony, a vocal pallor that chills. Posters show Samuel as a translucent overseer, MacDonald's gaunt features superimposed over cotton bowels, his eyes hollow with unlived atonement. Interactions with O'Connell's Stack reveal mentor-pupil rot, MacDonald's whispers urging escalation, while spectral debates with Lindo Slim invoke historical what-ifs. His arc's dissolution in holy water is poignant, MacDonald's casting adding tragic depth to the Confederacy's lingering curse. MacDonald's ethereal presencia achieved via green screen layering and demanded precise blocking, his Samuel haunting family gatherings with ghostly rebukes. In the twins' visions, he embodies inherited guilt, MacDonald's restraint making the revenant profoundly unsettling. The ensemble's interplay, how casting choices forge Sinner's thematic core beyond principles. Sinner's casting weaves a tapestry of supporting roles that amplify its chorale of voices. O'Mahony's Caleb, a juke joint pianist with prophetic fingers, is played by newcomer Liam O'Mahony, whose Irish folk influences blend in ragtime riffs, his character's fingers blurring in speed as vampirism nears. Posters capture Caleb mid-flourish, keys glowing like talismans, O'Mahony's youth contrasting the elder's weariness. Nabila Ahmad's turn as Bessie, Grace's conjure apprentice, infuses youthful defiance. The Top Boy, 2019, actress channeling Matiziel in her mixing montages. Her Bessie spars with Mary's naivety, Alma's sharp features and firelit close-ups evoking budding sorcery. Collective scene as a joint alive with laughter turning to screams to highlight how Coogler's ensemble casting fosters organic chaos. each performer's backstory enriching the Moore saga. Hiroyuki Sanada's brief but pivotal Dr. Wei, a Shanghai immigrant apothecary peddling anti-vampire elixirs, adds global texture. The Shogun, 2024, stars stoic wisdom clashing with Delta Slim's folklore. Sanada's elixirs fail spectacularly, his death across cultural lament, posters framing him amid vials like a mad alchemist. This interlocking cast transforms Sinners into a symphony of fates, where Jordan's twins orbit Lindo's anchor, Steinfeld's passion ignites Lawson's flame, and O'Connell's brew tempers Mosaku's storm. Coogler's choices of prioritizing chemistry, reads, and historical fidelity ensure the ensemble's sins feel lived in. The redemption's hard-won technical facets of casting, dialects, physicality, and on-set dynamics. Casting for Sinners extended to linguistic precision, with dialect coach Joel Golds overseeing a palette of accents from Jordan's Chicago to Mississippi shift to O'Connell's hybridized brogue that authenticate the 1932 setting. Workshops blended actors and jam sessions, fostering bonds that translated to screen intimacy, as when Steinfeld and Jordan co-composed a duet, their voices harmonizing Mary's duality. Physically, the production demanded versatility. Jordan's twins required mirrored choreography, while Lawson's queen necessitated aerial training for bat-like descents. Stunt coordinator Clayton Barber praised the cast's commitment, noting O'Connell's raw brawls and Lindo's endurance and humid shoots. Behind the scenes, Coogler encouraged Sin-Circle group therapy to unpack racial themes, deepening performances, with Mosaku crediting them for Grace's raw maternality. Costume integrations further showcased casting foresight. Carter's designs, fitted pre-filming, allowed fluid movement. Steinfeld's dress is ripping organically in transformations. Makeup tests for Vampiressa contouring for Hunger's Hollows ensured ethnic diversity shown. Lawson's queen, a vision of ebony elegance amid pallor. Cultural resonance, casting as commentary on Black horror legacy. Sinners casting dialogues with Black horror forebears. Jordan's twins echoing Candyman, 1992's dualities, while Mosaku's Grace nods to Tales from the Hood, 1995's Conjure Women. Coogler's ensemble diversifies beyond leads, Almaty and Lawson amplifying sisterhood's absent and whitewashed genre. O'Connell and MacDonald's white roles subvert savior tropes, their villains products of systemic rot. Festival panels post-Cannes 2025 debut hailed the casting for inclusivity, with Sanada's inclusion broadening horror's scope. Jordan's dual lead, in particular, reclaims twinning from the parent trap frivolity to profound schism, a meta-commentary on his career's bifurcations. Visual storytelling through casting in promotional materials. Thal Media Indices tease posters, conceptualizing them reveals casting's visual punch. Jordan's split-profile diptych, one twin saintly in white, the other shadowed in red. Steinfeld's Mary, piano keys bleeding into fangs. O'Connell's stack, badge melting into claws. Lindo's slim, harmonica to lips against a burning cross. Mosaku's Grace, hands raised inward, herbs swirling like spirits. Lawson's queen, enthroned in velvet, eyes promising oblivion. Ensemble group shots, the Moore clan silhouetted against the blood moon, unity fracturing. These visuals, crafted by cinematographer Autumn Durrell Arcapla, leverage casting to telegraph theme as a duality in poses, heritage and gaze as a making Sinners a poster-worthy feast. Deep dives into character arcs and actor synergies. Elijah's redemption arc, Jordan's pious restraint yielding to protective rage, synergizes with Lindo's slim and guitar duels that mourn lost innocence. Elias's fall, Jordan's hedonistic abandon clashing with Lawson's siren call, births hybrid horrors, their dances a ballet of crew. Mary's corruption, Steinfeld's innocence curdling under O'Connell's gaze, pivots on Mosaku's Grace's failed exorcism, mother-daughter tension. Electric Stack's ascent, O'Connell's bigotry immortalized, phrase against MacDonald's Samuel's spectral doubts, a villainy laced with pathos. Delta Slim's wisdom, Lindo's barroom fables guiding Caleb's piano preludes, O'Mahony's fingers faltering as thralls encroach. Grace's rituals, Mosaku's chants binding Bessie's apprenticeship, Alma's zeal igniting communal defenses. The Vampire Queen's web, Lawson's hypnosis ensnaring Samuel's ghost, McDonald's apparition pleading for release, Dr. Way's futile cures, Sonata's potions clashing with hoodoo, a clash of cures in the climax. These arcs, interwoven through casting chemistry, propel sinners toward its cataclysmic convergence where sins demand reckoning. Legacy of the casting, influencing future horror narratives. Coogler's Sinners casting sets benchmarks, Jordan's duality inspiring multi-role experiments, Steinfeld's muse redefining female monsters, O'Connell's immigrant villain humanizing hate, Lindo and Mozaku's elders elevate black seniority and genre, Lawson and Amma heralding new vamps of color. As 2025 unfolds, Sinners ensemble influences projects like Jordan's Creed 4, where familial themes echo, and Steinfeld's musical horrors. This casting, a deliberate mosaic, ensures Sinners endures as a horror milestone, its performers etched in eternal night. Production development and pre-production. The genesis of Sinners began in January 2024 when reports emerged of an untitled period film being developed by writer, director, and producer Ryan Coogler through his production company Proximity Media. The project, rumored to be set in the Jim Crow-era South and involve supernatural elements, immediately generated significant industry interest. Michael B. Jordan, Coogler's longtime collaborator, was attached to the lead role from the outset, marking their fifth collaboration together. The announcement sparked an intense bidding war among major Hollywood studios. Sony Pictures, Warner Brothers Pictures, and Universal Pictures all competed aggressively to secure the distribution rights to the film, which carried an estimated budget of around $90 million. Coogler's negotiating position was remarkably strong, and he leveraged the competitive environment to secure unprecedented terms for a filmmaker. His demands included first dollar gross participation, final cut privilege, and remarkably, ownership of the film 25 years after its release. These terms represented a significant departure from standard Hollywood practices and demonstrated Coogler's enhanced bargaining power following his success with the Black Panther films. In February 2024, Warner Brothers Pictures emerged victorious from the bidding war by agreeing to Coogler's terms. According to industry reports, the initial production budget was set at $80 million, though it eventually climbed to $100 million during production. The studio's willingness to accept these conditions reflected both their confidence in Coogler's vision and the competitive marketplace for original, director-driven content. Coogler has been open about his cinematic influences for Sinners. He cited the works of acclaimed directors including Quentin Tarantino, Jordan Peele, Christopher Nolan, Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma, and Spike Lee as inspirations. Notably, Christopher Nolan receives a special thanks credit in the film. In a surprising revelation, Coogler also mentioned the Metallica song One as a source of inspiration, demonstrating the eclectic range of influences that shaped the project's creative vision. The casting process for Sinners began in earnest in April 2024. Jack O'Connell was the first major addition to the ensemble, cast as the film's antagonist. The production quickly assembled an impressive roster of talent. Delroy Lindo, Jamie Lawson, Omar Benson Miller, Haley Steinfeld, Lee Jun Lee, and Lola Kirk were all cast in initially undisclosed roles. Wunmi Mozaku joined the production as Smoke's love interest, while Yao, Miles Catton, Peter Dermenis, and Christian Robinson rounded out the ensemble in subsequent weeks. Interestingly, several high-profile artists were connected to the casting process but ultimately did not participate. Halsey auditioned for the role that eventually went to Haley Steinfeld. Machine Gun Kelly was offered the opportunity to audition for Peter Dermenis' role but declined because the part required him to use racial slurs, which he was uncomfortable performing. Filming principal photography commenced in New Orleans on April 14, 2024, operating under the working title Grilled Cheese to maintain secrecy. The production wrapped on July 17, 2024, completing a 3-month shooting schedule. The film's production spent a substantial $67.6 million on location in Louisiana, taking advantage of the state's film production incentives and infrastructure. The technical approach to Sinners represented one of the most ambitious cinematographic undertakings in recent years. Cinematographer Autumn Durrell-Darkapua shot the film entirely on 65mm film, utilizing a groundbreaking combination of IMAX 15 Perf and Ultra Panavision 70 cameras. This marked the first time a film had been simultaneously shot using both formats. The dual-format approach allowed scenes to alternate between the expansive 1.43:1 IMAX aspect ratio and the ultra-wide 2.76:1 Ultra Panavision ratio, providing distinct visual experiences for different sequences. In a remarkable technical achievement, Kodak created a special 65mm version of their Ektachrome 100D 5294 film stock specifically for the production. This custom film stock was used for a flashback sequence in the film, demonstrating the level of technical innovation and collaboration involved in bringing Coogler's vision to life. The decision to shoot on film, particularly in multiple large-format configurations, represented both an artistic choice and a significant logistical challenge, as film processing labs capable of handling these formats have become increasingly rare. The production design of Sinners carried special significance beyond its period-accurate recreation of 1932 Mississippi. Production designer Hannah Beekler, who had previously collaborated with Coogler on Black Panther, incorporated subtle tributes to the late Chadwick Boseman into the film's sets. The church featured in the film was designed with crossed beams that formed the Wakanda Forever gesture, serving as a poignant homage to the actor who had been central to Coogler's previous Marvel work. Post-production. The post-production process for Sinners proved more time-intensive than initially anticipated, directly impacting the film's release schedule. The scarcity of film stock processing laboratories capable of handling 65mm IMAX and Ultra Panavision 70 formats created bottlenecks in the workflow. This technical reality forced Warner Bros. To delay the release from March 7, 2025, to April 18, 2025, swapping release dates with another Warner Bros. film, Mickey 17. This delay demonstrated the practical challenges of working with film in an increasingly digital production landscape. The visual effects work on Sinners was distributed among several major studios, reflecting the scope and complexity of the project. Industrial Light Magic served as the lead visual effects house, with additional work provided by Storm Studios, Rising Sun Pictures, Base FX, Bear Boom Studios, Light VFX, and Outpost VFX. The collaboration among these facilities ensured that the supernatural elements of the film integrated seamlessly with the practical photography. An interesting footnote to the production involved the film's costume design. Costume designer Ruth T. Carter had originally created period-appropriate costumes for Marvel Studios' long-delayed Blade reboot, which was also set during the Prohibition era. When Blade stalled in development and Marvel Studios decided to move away from the period setting, they allowed Carter to purchase the costumes she had made and repurpose them for Sinners. This fortuitous circumstance allowed Carter to leverage her extensive research into 1930s fashion across both projects, and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige confirmed the studio was happy to facilitate the transfer since they no longer needed the costumes. Music. The musical component of Sinners proved integral to both its narrative and production. Ludwig G. Pilkro-Ranson, Coogler's frequent collaborator, composed the film's score and also served as an executive producer. G. Pilkro-Ranson described the project as particularly personal and ambitious, representing a significant creative challenge even for an Oscar-winning composer. The authentic recreation of 1930s blues music required extensive research and collaboration. During pre-production, Coogler sent G. Pilkro-Ranson numerous recordings from the 1930s and 1940s, with particular focus on the work of legendary bluesmen Robert Johnson and Tommy Johnson. This immersion in the historical music of the Mississippi Delta informed G. Pilkro-Ranson's approach to both the score and the period songs featured in the film. G. Pilkro-Ranson performed much of the score himself on a 1932 Dobro Cyclops resonator guitar, the same instrument that the character Sammy carries throughout the film. This attention to period-appropriate instrumentation extended throughout the production. G.A. Pilcrow Ranson's wife, Serena, a classically trained violinist, produced the film's songs. She approached the work with reverence, acknowledging the cultural significance of Southern black music and the responsibility of handling this material with expert consultation and care. The production team partnered with Lawrence Boo Mitchell, a blues producer and owner of the legendary Royal Studios in Memphis. The G.A. Pilcrow Ransons and Mitchell visited the B.B. King Museum and authentic juke joints in Clarksdale and Indianola, Mississippi, immersing themselves in the geography and culture that birthed the blues. These research trips informed the musical authenticity that Coogler sought for the film. Over 5 intensive days at Royal Studios, the team recorded the film's songs with an impressive roster of blues musicians. Alvin Youngblood Hart and Cedric Burnside participated in the sessions, lending their expertise in traditional blues forms. Mitchell also brought in contemporary blues and R&B artists including Brittany Howard, Raphael Sadat, Bobby Rush, Christone Kingfish Ingram, and the legendary Buddy Guy, who also appears in the film. The production team established a studio in a converted church in New Orleans to work with the cast members who would perform musical numbers. Jack O'Connell, Lola Kirk, Peter Dramines, and Jamie Lawson rehearsed their songs extensively under the G.A. Pilcrow Ranson's guidance. Much of the film's music was recorded live on set, with cast members performing alongside blues musicians, creating an authentic energy that pre-recorded playback could not replicate. Haley Steinfeld contributed an original song titled Dangerous to the soundtrack, writing and recording the piece specifically for the film. Her involvement demonstrated the production's commitment to creating original material that honored the blues tradition while serving the story's contemporary relevance. The soundtrack's release strategy broke with Warner Brothers' typical approach. Rather than utilizing the studio's in-house label Water Tower Music, Sinners released its soundtrack and score through Sony Music labels. Sony Masterworks handled the release on April 18, 2025. The same day as the film's theatrical debut. The soundtrack featured 22 tracks performed by the diverse array of blues musicians and cast members who had contributed to the project. 2 weeks prior to the film's release, the lead single Sinners, performed by Rod Wave, was released to build anticipation. Released theatrical Sinners arrived in theaters with a carefully orchestrated release strategy that honored both its technical achievements and cultural significance. The film premiered at AMC Lincoln Square in New York City on April 3, 2025, before its wide theatrical release on April 18, 2025. The date change from the originally scheduled March 7 release reflected the additional time required in post-production, particularly for processing the extensive 65mm film footage. The theatrical presentation of Sinners offered multiple viewing experiences designed to showcase the film's technical achievements. 10 IMAX 70mm prints were struck for the release, allowing audiences in select markets to experience the film in the premium large format for which portions were specifically shot. These IMAX presentations featured sequences in the expansive 1.43:1 aspect ratio, filling the entire height of IMAX screens. Additionally, 5 standard 70mm prints were prepared for theaters equipped with 70mm projection capabilities, though without the IMAX aspect ratio variations. Beyond the premium large format presentations, the film received a wide digital release across 3,308 theaters. The theatrical strategy emphasized the film's status as an event experience, with 45% of opening weekend audiences choosing premium large format or IMAX screenings. This preference for enhanced viewing experiences demonstrated the value audiences placed on the film's technical presentation. The theatrical run of Sinners extended beyond traditional exhibition with special community screenings. In late May 2025, the film returned to Clarksdale, Mississippi, the small Delta town where the story is set. Clarksdale lacked a working movie theater, but the Civic Auditorium hosted 6 screenings over a 3-day weekend festival. Coogler, G.A. Pilcrow Ranson, and other filmmakers introduced the showings and participated in panels and Q&A sessions, creating a celebration that brought the film home to the community it depicted. AMC Theaters nationwide scheduled special screenings on June 18 at discounted prices, recognizing the film's cultural resonance and the significance of the holiday celebrating African American emancipation. This initiative reflected the studio's awareness of the film's particular meaning to Black audiences while making it accessible for family and community viewings. Home media. The home media release strategy for Sinners followed Warner Bros.' established patterns while incorporating some innovative elements. The film became available on digital streaming platforms on June 3, 2025, approximately 6 weeks after its theatrical premiere. This relatively quick turnaround to digital reflected contemporary distribution strategies that balance theatrical exclusivity with audience demand for home viewing options. Physical media releases followed on July 8, 2025, with the film available on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, Standard Blu-ray, and DVD formats. These physical releases catered to collectors and enthusiasts who value ownership and the highest possible home video quality. The 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray presumably showcased the film's cinematography to the best advantage possible outside of theatrical exhibition, though the format limitations meant audiences could not fully experience the IMAX aspect ratio variations. Warner Bros. Leveraged its streaming service for the film's subscription platform debut. Sinners premiered on HBO Max on July 4, 2025, less than 3 months after its theatrical release. This strategic timing placed the film on the platform for the Independence Day holiday weekend, maximizing potential viewership. Warner Bros. Made history with an accessibility initiative tied to the HBO Max release. The studio announced that Sinners would be available with interpretation in Black American Sign Language, marking the first time any streaming service had offered a film with BASL interpretation. This groundbreaking inclusion demonstrated awareness of the deaf community's diversity and the importance of culturally appropriate accessibility options. Reception. Box office. The financial performance of Sinners became one of the most discussed aspects of the film's release, with industry publications and observers offering varying assessments of its success. The conversation around the film's profitability highlighted ongoing tensions in how Hollywood measures and reports on the success of Black-led films and original properties. Initial projections estimated the film would need to gross between $170 and $185 million to break even, accounting for the production budget, Coogler's first dollar gross participation, marketing expenses, and premium video on demand and streaming deals with Prime Video and Netflix. However, other industry sources placed the break-even point considerably higher, between $200 and $225 million, with some estimates reaching as high as $300 million. These calculations factored in the film's $100 million production budget, estimated marketing spend of $50 to $60 million, and the traditional assumption that theaters retain half of ticket sales. The film's opening weekend performance exceeded expectations and sparked immediate discussion. Sinners was projected to gross between $30 and $40 million from 3,308 theaters in its opening weekend. Thursday night previews generated an estimated $4.7 million, and the film made $19.2 million on Friday. The opening weekend ultimately reached $48 million domestically, topping projections and claiming first place at the box office. This represented the best opening for an original film since Jordan Peele's Us, which opened to $71 million in 2019. The opening weekend success was particularly notable because it marked the first time since 2009 that a single studio had two films gross more than $40 million in the same weekend. Warner Bros.' own A Minecraft Movie, in its third weekend, earned $40.5 million. Coming in second place, Walk-Up Business proved crucial to Sinners' performance, with 61% of opening weekend attendees purchasing tickets the same day they attended, indicating strong word of mouth and spontaneous viewing decisions. Exit polling from the opening weekend revealed the film's appeal across demographics. 47% of moviegoers cited Jordan as their reason for attending, 40% came because of Coogler, and 45% bought tickets based on positive word of mouth. The audience skewed younger, with 64% of attendees aged 35 or younger. The demographic breakdown showed 49% Black, 27% Caucasian, 14% Latino and Hispanic, 6% Asian, and 4% Native American or other ethnicities, described as a strong turnout among different demographics. The film added $15.4 million from 71 international markets during its opening weekend, bringing the global opening to $61 million. While international performance would remain modest compared to domestic returns throughout the run, the global total demonstrated the film's appeal extended beyond the United States. Word-of-mouth momentum propelled Sinners through its theatrical run with remarkable consistency. The film earned $7.8 million on its first Monday, marking the second-best Monday haul for an R-rated horror film behind it. By the end of its first week, the film had accumulated $77.5 million domestically, exceeding the seventh-day totals of horror hits like The Conjuring and Jordan Peele's Get Out. The second weekend performance stunned industry observers and defied typical box office patterns. Sinners not only remained in first place but actually exceeded second weekend projections of $19.2 to $24 million by earning $45.7 million. The 4.9% drop represented the third best second weekend performance ever for a film debuting above $40 million, trailing only Shrek and Avatar. This hold also marked the second best second weekend for an R-rated horror film after it and the third best second weekend for a Coogler film after the two Black Panther movies. The audience for Sinners broadened in its second weekend. Women comprised 56% of attendees, up from 43% in the opening weekend. Younger viewers under 25 made up 34% of the audience, compared to 20% the previous weekend. This expansion indicated the film was successfully reaching beyond its core opening weekend demographic through positive word-of-mouth and social media discussion. Despite ceding its premium large format and IMAX screens to the Marvel film Thunderbolts, Sinners achieved another milestone in its third weekend. The film earned $33 million with the 28% drop, representing the best third weekend ever for a horror film, topping its previous record. International markets contributed $10.4 million over the same frame, with particularly strong holds in Latin America and Europe. Sinners crossed the $200 million domestic threshold in its fourth weekend, becoming the first original film to reach that milestone since Pixar's Coco in 2017. This achievement underscored the film's exceptional commercial performance and its status as a rare original property to achieve blockbuster status in an industry increasingly dominated by franchises and intellectual property adaptations. The film's commercial performance generated controversy regarding media coverage. Many fans and industry figures, including director Ben Stiller, criticized publications like Variety, The New York Times, and Business Insider for articles that seemed to downplay the film's success. These pieces focused heavily on production costs, Coogler's compensation, and speculation about profitability rather than celebrating the film's exceptional theatrical performance. Critics of this coverage argued it reflected a double standard applied to black filmmakers and their projects. By September 2025, Variety reported the film was expected to generate a theatrical profit of around $60 million, vindication for those who had defended the film's financial success. The final worldwide gross reached $366.7 million, with $278.6 million domestically and $88.1 million from international territories. While international performance remained modest compared to franchise tentpoles, the domestic total represented one of the strongest performances for an original, R-rated horror film in cinema history. Critical response: Sinners received overwhelming critical acclaim, with reviewers praising Coogler's vision, the film's technical achievements, and its ambitious blend of genre. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film achieved a 97% fresh rating based on 411 reviews, with the consensus reading, a rip-roaring fusion of masterful visual storytelling and toe-taping music. Writer-director Ryan Coogler's first original blockbuster reveals the full scope of his singular imagination. This near-universal critical approval placed it among the most acclaimed films of 2025. Metacritic assigned the film a score of 84 out of 100 based on 55 critics, indicating universal acclaim. This high aggregate score reflected the consistent praise across major publications and critics. Audience response proved equally enthusiastic. CinemaScore polling gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale, marking the highest grade for a horror film in 35 years. Post-track surveys showed 92% of viewers gave the film an overall positive score, with 84% saying they would definitely recommend it. These audience metrics suggested the film succeeded in satisfying viewers as completely as it impressed critics. Critics particularly celebrated Coogler's directorial vision and the film's cinematography. A. Dowd of Rolling Stone noted that Coogler was swinging wide and far beyond the boundaries of franchise fare, recognizing his willingness to take creative risks with studio resources. Wendy Ide of The Observer praised how Coogler's assurance and vision holds everything together, acknowledging the challenge of balancing the film's multiple genres and tonal shifts. Ann Hornaday of The Washington Post cited Coogler's impressive self-awareness while also praising the performances of Jordan Mozaku and newcomer Miles Catton. Several reviewers noted that the film's more grounded first half, establishing the historical setting and social dynamics of 1932 Mississippi, proved superior to the supernatural second half when vampires take over the narrative. This observation suggested some critics found the horror elements less compelling than the period drama and social commentary, though most still praised the audacity of the tonal shift. Peter Travers of ABC News declared Sinners the best movie released in 2025 up to that point, calling it Coogler and Jordan's best and most daring work yet. Not all responses were entirely positive. Zachary Barnes of The Wall Street Journal offered a more critical assessment, praising Jordan's dual performance but arguing that the film did not cohere thematically. Barnes suggested Coogler's imagination remains limited by the conventions of Marveldom, implying the director had not fully escaped the influence of his work on the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Black Panther films. This criticism stood as an outlier among predominantly positive reviews. Critics from faith-based publications offered nuanced perspectives. Sho Baraka, writing for Christianity Today, acknowledged the film's mature content while praising its frank exploration of religious hypocrisy in the American South. Baraka noted that the same plantation communities that suffered from corrupted religion also created spiritual music that evolved into the blues, recognizing the film's engagement with complex cultural and spiritual themes. Multiple reviewers drew comparisons between Sinners and Robert Rodriguez's 1996 film From Dusk Till Dawn, which similarly shifts from crime thriller to vampire horror. Coogler acknowledged Rodriguez as an influence but compared his film more closely to The Faculty, another Rodriguez project. These comparisons highlighted the film's genre-blending approach while situating it within a tradition of films that subvert audience expectations through dramatic tonal shifts. The music received near-universal praise from critics, with many noting its centrality to the film's artistic success. David Ehrlich of IndieWire wrote that while Ludwig Göransson's scores had always been integral to Coogler's films, Sinners explicitly addresses music that can pierce the veil between life and death, past and future, and then demonstrates exactly what that sounds like. Abdul Baki of Screen Rant stated that the music alone takes the film to another level, praising both the performances and Göransson's score. Amy Nicholson of the Los Angeles Times described the score as phenomenal, music that seemed to come from deep inside our pop cultural soul despite being unfamiliar. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter praised the flavorful score and how the blues performances fusing together to intoxicating effect. Even Zachary Barnes, who offered reservations about other aspects of the film, called Göransson's score a twangy marvel of genre-crossing interpolation. The critical recognition extended beyond review aggregation. In June 2025, IndieWire ranked Sinners at number 65 on its list of the 100 best movies of the 2020s. So far, remarkable placement for a film released only months earlier. In July 2025, The Hollywood Reporter ranked it number 16 on its list of the 25 best horror movies of the 21st century, cementing its status as a significant entry in the horror genre canon despite its genre-blending nature. The film's cultural impact sparked broader discussions about originality in contemporary cinema, the viability of mid-budget films, and Hollywood's treatment of black filmmakers. Sinners became a case study in whether studios would continue supporting original, director-driven projects or retreat further into franchise dependence. Its commercial and critical success provided evidence that audiences remained hungry for fresh stories told with vision and craft, even within genre frameworks. The response to Sinners demonstrated the continued relevance of theatrical exhibition in an era of streaming dominance. The film's success stemmed partly from being positioned as an event, with its technical presentation and musical elements creating an experience that rewarded theatrical viewing. The sustained box office performance across multiple weekends suggested audiences value the communal experience of discovery, sharing their reactions with others in real time rather than waiting for home viewing. As the 2025 film year continued, Sinners stood as one of its defining releases, a film that succeeded artistically and commercially while advancing conversations about representation, directorial vision, and the future of original filmmaking in Hollywood. Whether its success would influence studio decision-making remained to be seen, but the film demonstrated that audiences would support bold, original work when executed with the skill and vision Ryan Coogler brought to the project. This article was originally published on April 18, 2025. You can now invite Sinners into your home. It's streaming on HBO Max. I have always felt that the South gives America back to itself, ripping illusions from truth. When I see Looney Tunes images of Bugs Bunny sawing off Florida, as if relinquishing land below the Mason-Dixon line will save our fractured society, my heart breaks. When I read op-eds that suggest Manhattan should be fortified in the face of climate disaster but New Orleans should be consigned to oblivion, I see cowardice in the face of reckoning. The stories we tell about the region, specifically the ones that paint the South as solely a backwater, a juke joint by us, for us. The film takes place primarily over the course of a single day and night, barely touching an encroaching dawn. I heard they don't have Jim Crow up there. Sammy Moore, a sweet-natured Miles Catton, their young cousin with the spiritual talent for the blues, mentions to the twins. But Smoke and Stack respond with expeditious intensity. Chicago is just as racist as the rest of the country, even if its skyscrapers and largesse give it a different casing. We came back home to deal with the devil we know. The way the film swims through the contradictions, considerations, and cultural reverie of the rural South is genuinely enlivening. Sinners, festooned with intriguing ideas and even more beguiling characters, grabs the hem of greatness even if it never takes hold, hobbled as it is by a desire to hold more than it can properly contain in its over 2-hour runtime, leading to a story that feels misshapen after the setup. Coogler does not rush these proceedings. Instead, he marinates in the happenings and taste of his characters and the world around them after the twins buy a disabused sawmill to operate as a juke joint from a man who is quick to call them boy and later proves to be a crucial member of the Ku Klux Klan. Blessedly, a didactic rendition of anti-black racism does not follow. Coogler trusts his audience, letting the emotional stakes of his movie unfurl slowly. The twins are differentiated by color theory, Smoke and blue, Stack and red, but their differences would be apparent even without that visual cue. Stack is lascivious and abrasive. Jordan carries himself with braggadocio as a man who takes up space unapologetically and never moves quietly in a room, even if he says nary a word. He's quick to a smile and even quicker to violence. But so is Smoke, though Jordan gives him a taciturn tenderness. He's bound to Annie, Bunmi Mozaku, a Hutu practitioner with whom he shares a dead child and all the grief therein. The twins are crucial leads for the film, but Sammy is arguably the true protagonist. It's his coming of age that provides Sinners its structure, in which he is forced to choose between his gifts as a supernaturally skilled blues musician and the reserved church-bound life his preacher father, Jedediah Saul Williams, desires for him. If the fortunes of Sammy, Stack, and Smoke were the only important threads, Sinners would still be an epic, but Coogler isn't content to rest there. The film plays like it was made by someone who understands they may never be able to commit to such grand cinematic ambitions or, at least, the resources necessary to make them a reality again. The rights to this film revert to Coogler in 25 years, a rarity in the history of Hollywood deal-making. There is also Sammy's love interest, the married singer Pearline, Jamie Lawson, and Delroy Lindo as piano and harmonica blues musician Delta Slim. A drunkard with the golden spirit. Stack's own ragged love story involves Mary, Haley Steinfeld, feasting on the opportunity this film provides her. A woman with a half-black grandfather who lives on the white side of town but prefers to spend time with the black people she considers kin. One of my favorites of the important supporting cast is the charismatic Chinese couple who runs 2 shops in town and provides material support to the twins' efforts to start their juke joint egg race, Lee Jun-lee, and Bo Chow, who have an adolescent daughter, Lisa. Helena who. The actors are quickly able to sketch a deep bond between their characters, and their presence is a reminder that the soul of the South may be black, but it is a region defined by a more complex diversity it rarely gets credit for. Coogler luxuriates in the lives of those people, and the ecstatic performances they provoke, for about an hour before Jack O'Connell's vicious Irish vampire, remake, cuts a bloodied path through their stories. Sinners is a horror film, stitched together with menacing imagery of sunlight as clear as crystal and blood darker than death. Smoke trails off Remike's body as he stumbles to the home of a family affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan. Just as dawn spills upon the land, he weasels his way into being invited inside, escaping the Native American vampire hunters on his tail. They eventually arrive at the doorstep of the couple, who refuse to trust the words of a group of indigenous men and therefore guarantee an unsuccessful rescue. It's a pity we don't see more of these characters. It's such a delicious idea. Vampires are the best of cinema's major monsters, and Coogler mostly adheres to legible legends. There's garlic, silver, stakes to the heart, invitations necessary to darken doorsteps, but he adds a few less common touches that have potential AIs that glow, and elevated monstrousness that arises as they feed, drooling over the mere thought of blood. In Sinners, draining a human doesn't just sate an appetite. A vampire absorbs the memories and skills of their victim, too, but Remike's motivations explained in a stray line of dialogue are too thinly drawn and haphazardly framed. Remike desires to connect to the ancestors. Vampirism has barred him from knowing devouring Sammy's talent for conjuring spirits of the past through music as the means to doing so. All this is only gestured at. So is the horror he wreaks. It's as if the camera flinches. Moments of tragedy and violence are never dwelled upon properly. Like Coogler has too much to drink and otherwise to give these moments the time they need. There is no sonic tension. Spaces like the juke joint feels visually scattershot and confused once Remike's fiery violence crowds the room. Then the emotional beats that mark the conclusions of those characters' stories arrive without the heft necessary for the losses to bruise. Somehow, I was left wanting more. Certain connective tissue is lost in favor of excess elsewhere. As much as Sinners succeeds as a celebration of the Black South, it ultimately fails as visceral horror. Yet Coogler's film is distinct in a way I am curious to see audiences take in. While he fails to make his genre terror visually or narratively gut-wrenching, he avoids blunt messaging about racism and history and sidesteps the most laborious, rote choices of the modern black horror boom, filled with films that prioritized making racial strife clear to non-black audiences. Instead, Sinners communicates quite magnificently to black folks at a register many recent, mainstream black horror directors before him failed to reach. Coogler's script is trying to shake the table. He brings up questions about black people's misguided adherence to Christianity, who counts as black and a part of the community, the ancestral reverberations of black music, finding love against the odds, and the beauty that is born when two distinct bodies become one. These themes make the vampire saga feel rapturous, bold, ambitious, and brimming with curiosity and care. Even with its sloppy flaws, In particular the script's inability to cohere once the true action is underway. It is a film that got under my skin and continues to haunt my imagination, and what Coogler accomplishes in the realm of sensuality is genuinely exciting. The characters, save for the young Sammy, feel grown. These are adults with the seasoning that time, heartbreak, and wisdom provide and which the actors communicate with clear-eyed commitment. There are 3 sex scenes in the film, including a tender reconnection between Smoke and Danny. But it's Stack having Mary spit in his mouth during their sex scene in a storage room of the juke joint that stands out for sheer delight. A surprising recurrence in the film is its appreciation of the real leaders out there. At one point, Stack straight up explains cunnilingus by comparing it to the soft licks of eating ice cream. The film reaches its apex in a vivaciously ambrosial scene in which Sammy flexes dulcet tones and guitar skills, inspiring everyone towards sweat-laced dancing. A West African drummer and dancer appears, an echo from the ancestors of the introduction. A funk guitarist strides next to Sammy. When the hip-hop figures appear, the scene teeters toward being a touch too earnest. But for a moment, this blend of past, present, and future touches transcendence. A cinematic rapture capturing the best staging, framing, and composition of the film. It is a phantasm of black southern delights. As Delta Slim tells Sammy, blues wasn't forced on us like that religion. Sinners is an ancestral masterpiece, composed with the wisdom of history, the foresight of black and brown lineage, and the understanding of our connectedness through cultural excellence. The industry calls black films a risky and a unpredictable. Black folks just called it a life. Sinners speaks to that gap in understanding in every way it can. Pride and joy walking into the theater. You are not fully ready for the feels you are about to have. It isn't a vibe. It doesn't just eat. Sinners is every bit of generational slang that was and will be. This might sound extreme, but once you see the film, you will understand the transcendent experience that director Ryan Coogler aims to put you through. And yes, he succeeds. His ability to accurately display the monsters that work beyond lifetimes to acquire the magic we hold, to make audiences truly feel the undeniable draw of our power, is a feat only possible with the right amount of vision, resources, and execution. Okay, let me break all of this down without spoilers. P.S. Each section will be titled with Buddy Guy song titles because he broke and bar the blues. Skin Deep. The film is set in rural Mississippi, following homegrown twins Smoke and Stack. Both characters played very well by the charismatic Michael B. Jordan. Smoke and Stack are returning from a stint in Chicago to their hometown of Clarksdale, Mississippi. It is made very clear that these brothers do not play by any set of rules. They've come back to Clarksdale to start their own juke joint on a piece of the sharecropper land they bought with spoils earned up north. They're putting this juke joint together quick and dirty, gathering up all the folks they know for the spot to pop off that very night. Right from the beginning, it's giving a dusk till dawn feel mixed with Nope and Lovecraft country-ass cultural context. I know a broken bar just mentioning this film in the same sentence as Tarantino makes me cringe. If only we had Coogler first. Now, I am not comparing the two directors, not in the slightest. Coogler is on another plane of existence when it comes to his work. The element of thought and love for his craft goes beyond genre and truly hits you in the bloodstream. I say beyond genre because it is no secret that the film holds a supernatural element and can easily be placed in the folk horror column. Fresh out now, I was shown the trailer for Sinners just a few times too many before seeing the film. I wanted an element of surprise and felt every time I saw the trailer, I was gaining more and more insight into the story that I wanted to remain mysterious. I can happily say the film does exactly what you think and affects you far beyond what you could have dreamt up from the trailer. As the twins bring together their community, we are shown the life of the Deep South in 1932, the vast plantation land with the people still working the fields, and the beautiful roots they have sown from a tortured past and present. We're also given black joy, black religion, black music, black magic, black love. The supernatural element feels the most real, The period aspects melt away when you see so clearly the link between past and present. The connection between all things in Sinners. A broken bar is the music. First time I met the blues. The interwoven elements of music in Sinners are the most moving piece of the puzzle yet. The blues are at the epicenter of evolution and the power to instill life. The character Sammy, aka Preacher Boy, played by the incomparable Miles Catton, sings with the velvety resonance of a seasoned blues traveler, and the man is but 20 years old. This is Catton's feature film debut, having previously been a touring singer with powerhouse multi-hyphenate HER. As soon as this young man picks up a guitar and opens his mouth, the hairs on your arms stand up, your heart feels full, and you thank Bast that they still make voices like his. It's giving a sold my soul at the crossroads to sing this well. Sammy is the younger cousin of the twins Smoke and Stack and an integral piece to the success of their opening night. Sinners blends the intergenerational music of the Delta blues with every element of black music and culture in a way you have always felt but never seen. In an interview with IndieWire, Coogler expressed the desire to make a broken bar tactile feeling to things people know to be true. That is exactly what it feels like, the truth. This is only achievable by the brilliant musical genius of Black Panther musical composer Ludwig Göransson. Göransson is a longtime friend of Coogler, the composer and producer on Sinners. His creative ear and musical ability are unmatched. Not only do we hear and feel how the blues are at the root of black existence, but Coogler and Göransson blend Irish folk music seamlessly into the story of our culture's meeting. The way it shows up on film celebrates our real-life differences and also foretells the destruction of human life the narrative is brewing up. I am working very hard not to spoil this experience for you all, so let's get into some of the nitty-gritty movie-making elements before I say something I shouldn't. Messin' with the kid. The acting is superb. Every character that graces the screen is fully formed in a short amount of time. Married store owners Bo and Grace Chow, played by actors Yao and Lee Jun Lee, jump off the screen with full Mississippian accents, haggling with our protagonist like they are part of the family. Having this couple in this story is crucial to the accuracy of this time period, where Chinese migrants were forced to build U.S. railroads alongside black slaves and founded towns and blended families. This is a very important part of what makes the essence of this film. Michael B. Jordan feels like he has finally arrived. Unpopular opinion: I have yet to see Jordan's acting shine until this film. Outside of Fruitvale Station, in Sinners, he has taken on a pair of personas, split between two characters, albeit very similar. It was refreshing to see Jordan go beyond himself and fully dive into the characters. I was able to see past Michael B. Jordan on the screen and still appreciate what he, as himself, brings to a role. Jordan shares the spotlight with some of the greats, as he often does. Bunmi Mosaku, best known for her role as Ruby in the HBO series Lovecraft Country, plays Annie and is the centering force for the film, doing an expert job as always. The legendary Delroy Lindo, as Delta Slim, chews up every scene, and Jamie Lawson, Chat, Woman King, radiates with our newcomer Miles Catton. Haley Steinfeld also gives us a new side of herself. I was pleasantly surprised, but also didn't doubt that she could. Every actor's dedication to the story is transparent and makes for an immersive and engaging film all the way through. This can only be fostered by the excellent direction and vision of Ryan Coogler. My time after a while, which brings me to my final point. Film. It is evident Ryan cannot help but bleed his love for film. The movie was shot on physical film. For anyone out there who doesn't know filmmaking, forgive the film's planing if you aren't. The majority of movies these days are shot digitally. The footage is saved on a drive in the camera, and those files are transferred and edited on a computer. Physical film is a strip of cellulose. It is real, tangible, and very expensive. Not only is it shot on physical film, 70mm, it is shot simultaneously in what I did not know they even made a but IMAX film. IMAX is the way of filming and projecting that, in a sense, takes up the watcher's full field of view. It makes you feel like you're in the movie. It's you flying through the air, dancing with the actors, a broken bar, all of it. I had no idea they even made cameras capable of capturing that aspect ratio on film. Okay, I may have gotten very film nerdy for a minute. Watch this very informational video of Coogler explaining it all himself. Film buff stuff aside, Ryan Coogler wanted grit in the movie. He wanted an all-encompassing element, an immersive experience. This makes the film permeate into your retina and elicit a physical reaction from each moment. People are audibly cheering throughout the movie. I almost cried 3 times. It isn't that the film is perfect, it's that every chord hits the precise place it's meant to. This is a show of skill in expert proportions. You know, every person on set had the time of their lives. And it shows. I'm so proud to love movies because I know creatives like this exist. Stay around a little longer now. This is where I plan to insert spoilers. If you've seen the film, keep reading. If not, please return after you've gone all the way through the post-credit scene. As a practitioner of Afro-Puerto Rican folkloric dance bomba, a singer and lover of R&B, and a devotee of hip-hop's origins, there was one scene in the film that had me in tears and feeling like all my ancestors were present beside me. During this memorable opening night of the juke joint, Sammy, aka Preacher Boy, starts to sing. As he strums his guitar and belts each note, the roof opens up. The house literally burns down as every part of African, Black, and Chinese American culture materializes in the space. The moment expresses so clearly how blues is at the crux of our ancestral roots. Straight from Sammy's guitar comes jazz, hip-hop, trap, and then to West African drumming, all of this while the crip walk, breaking, ballet, and working is going on all in one room. Meanwhile, dice is being played as the DJ spins, and every brown body is vibrating with joy and elation. It is an undeniably powerful scene. As the song continues, we see just beyond the perimeter of the burnt-down walls 3 white figures drawn to the magnanimous energy like mosquitoes to a vein, their eyes aglow, like, dang, we can't have nothing to ourselves? Question mark. Snatch it back and hold it for the monsters in the film to be vampires. You think, would feel a little too on the nose. The nuance built into the villainous antagonists makes it only feel right. The added elements of the vampires being a hive mind, which is seldom used in their lore, bring home the very clear narrative of a shared experience, and the desire to collect the story of Sammy is even more impactful. The blues hold the key to a very powerful set of ancestral connections that our main villain just has to have. This particular vampire, Remick, played by Jack O'Connell, is quite old and of Irish descent. Irish cultural history, being so closely tied with oppression, slavery, and resistance, was a brilliant choice of Coogler. A story that feels congruent but still aims to possess our narratives and depth of power. There are so many elements of this film that this review could fill 3 books. One Mi's character Rennie brings in ancient and sacred rituals of the spirit, like hoodoo. These spells and knowledge are meant to protect and honor our spirituality. The native and indigenous writers pursue the villain at the beginning and work to protect land and people from their evil. I very much hope there is a spin-off following those characters and their journey. I feel so deeply seen, so proud to be a filmmaker, an actor, a singer, a keeper of ancient traditions, a storyteller. In a time when we are told our stories are unworthy, I've never been more motivated to be louder and take up more space, even if only to honor where all the power comes from. Want to get Black Nerd Problems updates sent directly to you? Sign up here. Follow us on Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. Ryan Coogler's Sinners is a big screen exaltation, a passionate, effusive praise song about life and love, including the love of movies. Set in Jim Crow, Mississippi, it is a genre-defying, mind-bending fantasia overflowing with great performances, dancing vampires and a lot of ideas about love and history. Here, when a black musician plays the blues at a juke joint, he isn't just performing for jubilant men and women. He is also singing to the history that flows through them from generations of ancestors to others not yet born. Like Coogler, the musician is a kind of time traveler, blasting off into horizontal possibilities. Few American filmmakers in recent memory have risen with the dizzying speed of Coogler, who a decade ago vaulted to attention with Creed, his franchise rethink that took the Rocky series off life support. With his ensuing Black Panther superhero movies, Coogler rose higher still, proving that he could retain both a distinct aesthetic sensibility and a sense of human proportion and stakes, even in the Marvel movie factory. His vision of Wakanda, the otherworldly country that the Black Panther calls home, works in part because of its far-out visions and technological wonders. Yet if it's persuasive, it's because in Coogler's Wakanda, you are also never far from the reality that's roiling right outside the cinematic frame. That reality is even more vividly present in the dusty roads and bustling vibrancy of Sinners, which takes place in 1932 in and around Clarksdale, Miss, a delta town tucked in the northwest corner of the state. There, amid endless fields of cotton, Sammy, the appealing newcomer Miles Catton, a sweetly sincere son of a preacher man, yearns to play music. He gets a break when his cousins, the identical twins Smoke and Stack, have both played with luminous feeling by Michael B. Jordan transform a derelict building into a juke joint. There, Sammy all but burns the place down with his resonant voice and twangy dobro, a guitar with a provenance as devilish as that of the bluesman Robert Johnson. Coogler, who also wrote the screenplay, gets his game on early in Sinners, which opens with a grabber of a scene and a dazed, bloodied Sammy bursting into his father's church mid-sermon, a jaggedly broken-off guitar neck clutched in one hand. A few beats later and the story skips back to the recent past. Such temporal scrambling is overused, presumably because Citizen Kane continues to cast its shadow over film schools. But as intros go, this one is enough of a question mark to stir your curiosity, which only intensifies with the entrance of Smoke and Stack, syncopated dandies with high style and a heavy past, who've endured war, survived Al Capone's Chicago and held fast to smoldering romances. Smoke and Stack are two sides of the same charismatic coin. It's hard not to see the filmmaker and his star in similar terms. The first time you see the twins, they're waiting on the building's owner. Stack has on a sharp reddish fedora and tie, a handkerchief neatly tucked in a breast pocket. There's a hint of gold in his ready smile, and more than a suggestion of malice. His brother is wearing a blue cap and soon dragging on a cigarette, tendrils of smoke wafting across his sterner, more melancholic face. The effect of these lookalikes is lightly destabilizing, and when Stack leans across to light Smoke's cigarette, you may find yourself leaning toward the screen, mesmerized by the synchronicity of bodies and digital wizardry. Once the twins seal the deal, the other narrative pieces begin falling in place. There are many, some of which fit together better than others. Delroy Lindo shows up as another bluesman, Delta Slim, as Dooley Junley and Yao as the grocer wife and husband, Grace and Bo Chow. Each brother reconnects with an old lover, Ray Smoke with Annie, Wanmi Mozaku, Stack with Mary, Haley Steinfeld, a mirrored romances that never line up as neatly as Coogler seems to intend. Annie breaks your heart, Mary works your nerves. That would be less of a problem if Mary, a woman with a fraught identity, wasn't burdened with so much symbolism. Mozaku, by contrast, is playing a flesh-and-blood woman, not a conceit, and her reunion with Jordan's Smoke is so beautifully felt, and Smoke in hot, it deepens the emotional texture. Sinners is the fifth feature that Coogler has directed on occasion. It can feel like his fifth, sixth and seventh all rolled into one. There's pleasure in much of the success, in seeing how Coogler takes his imaginative detours and the fluidity with which he draws from past, present, myth and speculative fiction, including in a masterpiece of a sequence in which men and women from across history, traditional dancers and b-boys among others, converge at the juke joint. There's great horror in this world, in the fields haunted by slavers and in a mean little house where a Klansman's white hood and robes sit on a bed belonging to a mean little man. Yet the joy here is louder, and it resounds in every whoop and thundering stomp. It's at that same shack that a devil comes calling in the form of Remake, Jack O'Connell, a smooth-talking Irish charmer who helps take the movie in a more familiar direction, as romance gives way to escalating violence. Remake is a seductive villain, but he and the trouble that he brings with him at times overwhelm the latter part of the movie, much of which takes place inside the juke joint, turning a space of liberation and pleasure into a veritable war zone. Coogler's work remains effortless, with staging and shooting that are so tightly synchronized that everything else, love included, seems to melt away. You can scarcely catch your breath as demons and humans clash, as some souls are lost and others found. Coogler is a superb action director, which is perhaps why he lavishes so much time on this battle royale, with its gunfire and sanguineous fountains. Even so, the scenes that keep replaying in my head are the quieter, subtler ones, including a sequence in which the camera tracks Grace's daughter, Helena, who, from one grocery store in town to another one across the street, where her movements are mirrored, twinned, you could say, by Grace, who crosses the street back to the first grocery as if closing a circle. By the end of Sinners, Grace and many others will have gone through hell. But I like to think that her daughter will still be there, walking in the sun as Sammy's songs play on, becoming the soundtrack for all the generations of real fighters and survivors who are, I think, finally this movie's great subject. Sinners rated R for gun, wooden stake and fang violence. Running time, 2 hours 18 minutes. In theaters, director and screenwriter Ryan Coogler has built a prosperous place for himself in filmmaking, receiving both critical praise, like for Fruitvale Station, 2013, and big commercial success, like for Black Panther, 2018. His newest film is Sinners, a blend of so many genres and so many feelings it left my head spinning. After this film ended, I walked out of the theater with many mixed emotions. I still have these mixed emotions as I compose this review. Set in the 1930s Depression era of the South, Michael B. Jordan, Creed 3, 2023, plays two identical twin brothers who return to their small hometown together after years of the criminal gangster life in Chicago. With their collected cash, the brothers buy an empty sawmill to turn it into a dance hall, nightclub which the locals call a juke joint. In a setting of dirt roads, cotton fields, denim overalls, and whiskey bottles, the cinematography and editing deftly capture the authenticity of this time and place. The first half of Sinners is a traditional period drama as the twin brothers split up during the day to recruit some locals, and some old lovers, to work at the juke joint on its opening night. They hire musicians, a bouncer, some bartenders, and a cook, all of which have a prior relationship with one or both of the twins. But when night arrives in the second half of the film, it takes the most unexpected turn into left field when the juke joint is attacked by white hillbillies who are also vampires. So the latter half remains a period drama but also transforms into a violent horror story when the black entrepreneurs fight to defend their business, and their lives, with guns, wooden stakes, and fire. Sinners is like The Color Purple, 1985-2023, meets From Dusk Till Dawn, 1996, combining two distinct genres most movie lovers have seen little of. For other period supernatural horror films, I could only think of Sleepy Hollow, 1999, Ravenous 1999, and The Witch, 2015. But even those films only feature a cast of white actors, making Sinners an even rarer cinema experience. The contrast of genres and the variation of ideas is huge in this film, which is why it's so boldly unique. Ryan Coogler said in an interview, "I wanted the movie to feel like a full meal, but after I watched this, I felt I had been force-fed after completing a 7-course feast." Sinners is a lot. It has violence, murder, sex, music, romance, and symbolism all turned up to the loudest level. The symbolism is easy but also thoughtfully layered. Yes, the vampires represent the destructive evil of racism that has drained the blood of the South for decades, but the vampires can also represent white populations who absorb parts of Black American culture for their own selfish fulfillment and then exploit parts of that culture until nothing is left, bleeding them dry, so to speak. The vampires can also be an allegory of a black community that is infiltrated by evil forces and then turns on itself, resulting in generations of suffering. It's easy to tell from my words how much I appreciate the film, because,